Up next on Inspiring Beauty and Believers.
Strife for one, you made the wrong decision in the mate you picked because you didn't pick for your future, you picked for your present. And then at that point, it's like that's why there's so much divorce rate. There's so much things that's going on in life is that people are picking the wrong person, not for what their purpose is in life, but for what their
But I just want to first and foremost tell y'all this series, I have gotten so much feedback from this from people, men and women, especially women, because you know how us women are they be like, my husband really needs to listen to this message.
Every time, no, sweetheart, you need to be taking all this stuff. We talking to you too.
Right. And so, I was explaining to them, this is to give a perspective so that you can understand where men are coming from and different things. Yes, I do. I'm grateful that I can have a platform where men can feel comfortable to talk about these things and share these things and open up their hearts and not feel judged or attacked by women. But it's important for women to understand these things too. And so normally I just do this for the month of June around Father's Day, but because it's just a real tug at my heart, and anybody who knows, I have a desire to see everybody heal, heal from parental abandonment issues, trauma, all those things, because it causes so many issues in your life in general, and then in your relationships and stuff. But and I always thought that my call was primarily to women and children, but I'm seeing more a tug to help men, and not saying that I know the answers to how to help them, but having a place for them to be able to come together so that they can share, and that I can have people who are transparent like you guys, who can open up and let other guys know that it's okay to talk about these things. And maybe they can find people that they can reach out to and talk to so that they don't have to suffer in silence. Because when the man is whole and he is healed, then it trickles down to the family, which trickles down to the community and the nation, and everybody gets healing. But we, as human beings, and then especially as women, we can't just be focused on us being whole and then telling the men, you need to get yourself together, but they don't have resources. And I was, when I was talking to my brother earlier this morning, I was talking about in the aspect of, you see domestic violence issues and you see women's shelters, women and children's shelters for domestic violence, but you don't really see stuff for men. And men go through this stuff too. You got men who get beat on, you got men who are verbally abused and stuff, but people always assume men need to be strong enough to deal with this stuff, so they'll get over it. And we have to change the scenario for that. It's not okay to just beat up on our men and then tell them, get over it and be strong, and then show affection to me and love me like I want you to love me, because I got all these issues and you just got to deal with it. That's not okay. So I said all that to say, y'all might get tired of me before I get tired of calling on y'all and be like, can y'all do another video? Can y'all do another video? I'll just put that out there just so y'all know. But we will go ahead and get started on today's message. And I probably should do my intro now. Welcome everybody to Inspiring Beauty and Believers. My name is Song, and today we are doing For the Love of Men Reloaded. So if you joined us last month for our series on For the Love of Men, we got a lot of feedback on that, and I just wanted to do this again because we didn't get through all the questions the first time, and there's so much to talk about, and I've gotten so many people who want more of this and who need more of this. So I brought the guys back together, and we're going to have another conversation, and we're going to go more into depth about some of the things. And I have some questions that some other people have given me too that they wanted to ask. But the first question I'm going to go into is, and I want everybody to answer this, but I'm going to start with my brother, King, because, well, he legally changed his name to King. But the question is, I scrolled past it. Okay, the process of kingship. So we're in a, you know, generation now where everybody's going around talking about their kings and their queens and, you know, royalty and stuff. And they're saying these things, but there's actual a process to this. And if you're raising up children, especially all of you guys are all at some level raising or have raised sons. And if you're raising your son to be a king, just like King David, he was anointed king, but it was still a process before he ever made it into that physical situation. So what would you say the process is, or how have you gone through the process, even if you don't necessarily call yourself a king, how have you gone into that process of becoming the man that you are called to be? King?
Man, look, I'm just gonna come from a different perspective. I'll first hit it with the Bible aspect, and then I'll go from there. And I'm just going to say from the aspect of being the greatest in the kingdom. If you know the story, everybody knows. I won't go too much into that, but I'll just get right to the point. If you want to be the greatest in the kingdom, you must be serving to all. So most people got to understand the king or not, though people look at it like I'm in this royal position and I'm in this hierarchy place. So much is given, much is required. And so you're here to serve the people, regardless of the point. If you're in that position, you've been blessed. Like when you think about Solomon and the things was, he asked God for wisdom. He didn't ask for the riches. He didn't ask for the fame. He didn't ask for all this other stuff. People think I'm supposed to have this Lamborghini, 5 cars and all that. Nah, man, at the end of the day, even King David started out serving in the field with sheep and stuff like that. It's like you got to always have an aspect of servanthood. It takes a level of self-sacrifice to be in that position. And most people don't even understand, like they want the position until you get it. And when you get it, like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times people ask like, yo, I'm in this position. I'm a pastor, or I'm a king. I'm in this role. And you look at it as like, man, but do you really know what it takes to be in that position? It's a lot of times that you've had to put yourself to the side for what's good for the people. Like when I'll use another example of David, when he made a mistake, even though he was king and he had a high moment, he wanted to sit here and have sex with another man's wife and, you know, plotted against him to get him killed because he couldn't put the baby on him. All these different things he mistaken. It's like either, all right, man, you got some options you got to do. It's like you can, you know what I'm saying, mess up the kingdom, or you got to give up your child. You know what I'm saying? He had to give up his child. He had to sacrifice that in order to save the kingdom, right? So it's like when you look at these certain situations in that aspect, it just seems like in all of this aspect, the more and more I get put in a higher position is just more serving, and less about myself and about, you know what I'm saying, as far as like, some people look at it, and that's the thing that I keep seeing people look at it is this aspect of rulership and all that. And yeah, those things is true, but I want people to remind themselves that you got to be serving, like you've been given a position. The same thing for me. I see the same person that's cleaning the toilet as a janitor is the same person who's preaching on the pulpit on Sunday. Everybody, you take one person out of there, this thing don't work. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times in it, it takes a very humble person to be able to do what's right in the right situations. And you got to put yourself to the side for it. So I say servanthood, definitely to be great in it, to walk in that kingship or queenship. The next thing I would say for kingship is to know your value and know your worth. Like you got to have a self-confidence in yourself, as far as like not to be arrogant or anything like that, but you got to know that in a decision, you got to make what's right for the whole decision. Because some people are like, okay, I'm just gonna make this one decision, but you got to look at it over the whole kingdom. It's at times you got to cut weeds out of your kingdom because it's taking this blood sucking, or like cancer, you got to cut the cancer out of your situation because you're letting people come in here and they're infiltrating and they're causing issues and they're really not in here to play a part in it. And somehow, like, as you keep evolving in life and you keep growing, sometimes those people that was in there for a season, you're going to have to realize you have to cut them because they're not willing to go to this next altitude. So you got to have the value within inside of yourself saying, I'm going to make this decision. I love you. Like, if you want to keep coming with me and what I'm doing, just know what I'm pursuing it. It's not that we don't, we're just on different paths. And that's why I think people forget at points. Is like, as a king, is like, I want to bring everybody with me. I want to do these things, but in your mission and in your goal, and I use this example, and my sister's song was one of the people who actually came to me because, you know, I was talking to her about life and in general and stuff like that. She said, you have to remember when Abraham and who went to Sodom and Gomorrah? Lot. So when their stuff was growing so much, you had 2 kings in one kingdom. And it's like, okay, don't even worry about it, bro. You go to the east, I'll go to the west. You just pick a spot where you go. But we're just at this point, our time together, we grew together. And at this point, we started in one hub and now we need to break loose. And in that point, but to go in here, but at the end of the day, Abraham still was praying for Lot, even though Lot took a different direction stuff, he still prayed. And because, you know what I'm saying, he interceded for that man. In that point, God still looked out for him, right? So in that aspect, there's that point. So I'm just using that from the standpoint of at certain times, two people are going to grow. And it's at this point, your assignments are now to separate and to go on and do bigger things apart. But you still got love and you can come together at sometimes. But at sometimes you got to make that decision. And sometimes people hold on to each other too long. And then you wondering why. And I use this certain aspect and women take it however you be that may, and men take it how be that may. You pick up this mate that you're supposed to think you're supposed to have, and they were good for that season. But as you started to elevate in life, you realize y'all have grown apart and you're still holding on to this thing and it's becoming a cancer in your life and it's not working. And you wonder why you have so much strife. For one, you made the wrong decision in the mate you picked because you didn't pick for your future, you picked for your present. And then at that point, it's like, that's why there's so much divorce rate. There's so much things that's going on in life is that people are picking the wrong person, not for what their purpose is in life, but for what their present state is, you know, and you got to really think about that. So in Kingship, think about all those things. I don't want to take up all the time. I know y'all don't get me going, but I'm going to pass them on these brothers. So just servanthood and just understand to make, as a king, you got to make tough decisions. So value yourself enough to know that you're making the right decisions. And if you don't, be man enough to admit when you didn't and grow from it.
As you can see, we have a lot of conversations about kingship. So yes, anybody else can come in.
Well, I can jump in if you like. The scripture that came to mind, I found it, Luke 22:26. And it talks about servanthood. And this is the Amplified version. It says, but it is not to be this way with you. On the contrary, the one who is the greatest among you must become like the youngest and the least privileged, and the one who is the leader like the servant. And I agree with you 100%. Just servanthood. I think for me, not seeing that type of example as a kid coming up, how to be a man, how to be the king, the head of the household. Jesus is the perfect example for me, having the characteristics of Christ. Christ is the first one I think that Christ was very intentional about serving people. You know, he didn't wait for a certain time or you had to clock in. You know, he was very intentional looking for people to serve, people to bless, just people to help. And I think today, you know, people only do those type of things sometimes to be praised or to be acknowledged. You know, I think we do it, what we do in secret, you know, God, he sees that. You know, when we're praying, many people will pray just before a congregation of people or a group of people, you know, but I pray in my car, I pray in my closet, I pray in my bed, I cry when I pray, you know. But I just really, really, really have a desire to be more like Christ. I believe that is the perfect example of what to be a man is, having his patience. Brother of mine told me years ago, be careful what you pray for because God will give it to you. God will place you in situations where you have to, where he'll teach you. And I prayed for patience once, and God put me in some situations where I really had to be patient, and it wasn't easy. It was tough, you know, but it really helped to build character for me, you know. Loving, forgiving. Christ is very, very forgiving. And the most hardest thing for me to do was to forgive my dad. So I was placed in a position to forgive my dad. And I really believe that even though it was not exemplified to me as a kid, as a young adult, as a young man, that I had the Bible. I had the Bible to turn to. You know, and reading about Jesus, how Jesus was as a kid, how he stood up, you know, to the Pharisees as a 12-year-old kid speaking the truth. And, you know, it's very encouraging to me. It is. But my example for me is Jesus. And again, servants. I love to serve. And God sees what we do in secret. He sees what we do out in public in the open, and he rewards us for that. But my example, my definition of a man, of being a king, is Jesus. And to many people that may look weak, because they think he was soft. I think that he just was a loving, caring, meek man, which he was all that, But Jesus is the first one to stand up to you and tell you that you're wrong. He's the first person to stand up and defend someone that nobody else wants to defend. When he defended the woman that was going to be stoned to death, he defended this woman during the time when women had no rights at all. But he stood up and he told those men, whichever one of you is without sin, throw the first stone. And that took a lot of boldness and courage to do that, and then going to the cross and dying for all of us, that's a man to me.
All right.
Good stuff. I have I ain't gonna say a different perspective per se, but one of my things is a lot of people use a lot of different words and they don't really know the meaning of it. Like they just say, I'm a king, I'm a queen, you know what I mean? But you don't know that word. And the best way to really try to say that a lot of times is like people say they want to be a homeowner. They say they want to have $1 million, they say more money, more problems type situation. They don't see the background or what's behind the curtain a lot of times. So for me, being a king is you got to research if that's something that you really trying to do. I mean, I know that God told you that you're a king, but some people just come out there like, yeah, I'm a king. Well, you don't even know the definition of a king. You don't know what. So that's like me going and applying for a job and just like, oh yeah, I like that title. And you don't have no sense of whatsoever what that job entails. You may have to go through special training. You have to have certificates, but in order to actually get that title, there's certain things. So I don't care what age you are, you have to go through a process of being a king. And when you're getting a kingdom together and being a king, you need to know, well, what do I want in my kingdom? What are the rules that I want to have? What am I trying to build? You can't just come out there. You a king, but you a king of what? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a king. What you a king of, dog? Like, let's just be real frank with you. I'm the king of my 15 Jordans. Like, come on, man. Like, you ain't really doing nothing. What are you trying to be a king of? And what is your kingdom? Because you ain't a king unless you got a kingdom. And you're trying to prosper and take over territory and you're trying to grow. You're trying to be something. You can't be a king if you ain't trying to do something. Every king is trying to prosper their family. They're trying to prosper their kingdom. They're looking out for others at the same point in time, growing themselves because they know that within themselves, as I grow as a kingdom, as a king, my kingdom is going to prosper. Every single day that we wake up, we are supposed to take territory for the kingdom of God, right? His kingdom, right? So I'm a king. So I have to grow in myself to expand the kingdom. It's a lot of work that goes into those things. I absolutely say that I'm a king now, but I'm also a king in process because I'm learning every single day. Wow. And I'm teaching my son every single day. And I had a question and I was like, how in the world can I teach my son how to be a king when I'm trying to be a king myself? It just doesn't make sense mentally. But with God, because all things, not some things, but all things are possible, then I have the capability of growing myself and my son at the same point in time. So we have to look at, once again, we have to break it down. All right, what am I kingdom of? What am I trying to build? What am I trying to grow? Because without those things, there is no king. There's no kingdom. So what are you really the king of? But I don't think a lot of people want to go into that reality. They just want to say I'm a king. Right. They want that title. You have to respect me because I'm a king. You a king of what, dude? What is your past? What are you trying to grow? What are you trying to do? That tells me that you're a true king. That's what tells me that you're a king is when you go into that. And I realized myself personally that I'm a king. Like, I had a conversation with my father yesterday, and my father is intimidating. And I told him, because he has certain things as far as like education and things of that nature. And when I was talking to him yesterday, it was not the conversation of a king and a prince where he was trying to teach me things, but it was two kings sitting at the table and discussing something. Like, I understand where you're coming from, but this is my perspective. This is my kingdom. This is what I'm doing. I can take what I'm hearing from you and I can grow, and we can grow together. I gave him some, he gave me some nuggets. That's when you're around kings, because you're growing and you're sharing and you're moving. And guess what? We all can prosper. But that's how I see a kingdom in. And like Mike was saying, I didn't really understand that besides realistically getting into the word, because we talk about it all the time that we don't really see examples of what a true king is or what the definition of a king is. So we have to go back to the word and really see what that looks like, and then start using it to prosper our kingdom and our kingship every single day. So that's kind of a perspective that I got on it. You know what I mean?
I like that. And I have a whole lot to say about that, but I'm gonna hold on to it for a minute. So real quick, Shannon, we are discussing the process of kingship and how everybody, or a lot of people are going around saying that they're kings, but what does that really mean and what does that entail? So that's as far as we gotten so far. So just to catch you up on that, but I think Courtney was about to say something. Okay, because he threw the napkin already and he ready. Okay.
Oh man, no, I had to. Boy, if I was, that boy was spitting fire. So I wrote down a couple of notes because I'll forget my stuff in a heartbeat. So, all right. So the word tells us that God is the King of Kings, mm-hmm. and that we were created in His likeness and image, and therefore we were given king status upon creation. We gave it away with the curse. Mm-hmm. We got it back at redemption. So now it's time for us to recognize what has actually happened and what we've been redeemed to, right? So I don't know this for an absolute fact, but me being the wordsmith that I consider myself, in my mind, it makes sense that a kingdom is a king's domain. The kingdom is the domain of the king, what all belongs and falls under his purview, his protection, his provision, his oversight, his vision, right? So if the king is responsible for a particular land and all the inhabitants therein and the commerce that takes place, the protection, the walls, you know what I'm saying, making sure like he is he's the one single point of contact that's responsible for the well-being of everyone and everything within the walls of his domain. And so, I mean, we go from faith to faith, from glory to glory. You plant a seed and then it grows. So obviously we need to start at home. How are you doing that where you pay bills? You know what I'm saying? And then you start to expand. People want to be kings over everything, and they haven't started in the small things. You know what I'm saying? Like everything that God has ever designed in the earth starts small. You know what I'm saying? When He created it, He created mature things. But everything that got reproduced from those mature things started small. And so since we're not out here battling other kings for their domain, we're not literally out here taking land anymore. Like kind of lines in the sand have been drawn. We've been seeing the same maps our whole lives. I think the only thing changed in our generation was probably the divide of Germany. You know what I'm saying? Like other than that, the map pretty much looked the same, right? So kings ain't really fighting to take land no more. I mean, except for Israel and Palestine, but that's a different story. But my point is, though, we have what we have, and it's our responsibility to be responsible over those things. Somebody referenced David earlier. David started as a shepherd. And so this goes back to what King was saying. This is the first thing I wrote down. People want exaltation, but they don't want servanthood. And it's rooted in insecurity. So they want to be acknowledged as being the man that's on top, but they're too insecure that if there's somebody caught them being servant, that, oh, see, he's not a king, he's just a servant. Like they're too insecure of what other people think of if they catch them doing the servant part. No, you want to see me on the throne. You don't want to see me cleaning out the stable, but I'm responsible for the stable. You understand what I'm saying? Like if don't nobody clean the stable, the horses get sick. We need the horses for war. You understand what I'm saying? We need the horses to help plow the land for the crop. So the stable got to get clean too. But if you see me in the stable, you just assume that I'm a stable boy. But as the king, I should be comfortable with you only seeing me as the stable boy, because I don't need you to know I'm the king here as long as I know I'm the king here. Like, you can laugh and make all the jokes you want. I pay your check. You know what I'm saying? The taxes you pay come to my castle. You understand what I'm saying? Like, my military protects you. You understand what I'm saying? So when I look at it, like, I'm, this old school kingdom type stuff, like if I was in a monarchy and I was the king of a land, I couldn't care less how the people think of me. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I want to be revered. I'm a servant leader anyway. So I'm going to be down in the trenches with them. But at the same time, we have to understand that I can't function keeping in mind more so your perspective of me. Is I need to be secure in my perspective of me. You know what I'm saying? And if I'm secure in that, I don't care what you catch me doing that you deem to be a servant's duty. Yeah, absolutely right. And if you ever want to be king, you be down here shoveling this pool with me. You understand what I'm saying? Like, your whole, it flips. Instead of, no, you're right, go get my robe. Nah, bro, get a shovel, come with me. I'm gonna show you how kings do. You understand what I'm saying? So then we talked about kings. Kings have to have the best in mind for everybody that's under their domain. They got to have the best interest of everybody, their protection, their provision, the leadership, the vision. The king is responsible for all of that. Excuse me. And this goes back to what King was saying as well. And I love that he said it, because to me, it's a testament of how he sees himself. But me coming off of like what we was talking about last time, like where I was in therapy and stuff, like this is something I have to be cognizant of as I approach these kinds of topics. So I wrote down, you have to love yourself enough to know when sacrificing any further would be detrimental to yourself or the people under your leadership. So kings should be self-sacrificing. There comes a point where you sacrifice your comfort and your time or whatever for the good of the people. But if the sacrifice starts to stretch to a point where it becomes detrimental for your own well-being and you would lose your ability to properly be the king that you are, it's time that, your sacrifice is ended. It's a season for you to, okay, no, I need to rest. You know what I'm saying? Like, there literally were times in battle where they allow, they still do it in the army. It's called R&R. Like, if you deploy for a year, they give you 2 weeks in the middle of that to just go somewhere and not fight. Like, nah, okay, so we in Iraq, y'all going to Kuwait to the city for 2 weeks. Or you can go home for 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes they don't let you out the region, but the fact of the matter is, anybody who's in war that long, that take a toll on any person. I don't care how good they are, how long they've been trained. And so, but that's something that our king, our president, our Congress, whatever we've established as our leadership, that's something that they've taken into consideration. The well-being of the people that are defending us, they need some R&R. You know what I'm saying? When what's old boy? Wasn't it Uriah? That was the husband
one that got murdered?
Bathsheba, right?
Yeah, Uriah.
Yeah. David called him home. Like, yo, go ahead and rest. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and rest. Like, have some R&R. He like, no, it ain't R&R time yet. And the funny thing is, if you go back and read that, you'll see it says at the time where the kings should be at war, David was in the rear. So David was out of place. He shouldn't even have been home. He should have been with the soldiers. Then he saw Bathsheba bathing on the bathtub, on the rooftop. You know what I'm saying? I said all that to say,
that's a whole different message.
Yeah, it is. It is. But my point in that is simply because the kings have a role, the kings need to be secure enough in themselves. They need to love themselves enough to know when sacrificing has gone too far. And they also need to understand that, for a modern day person to consider themselves a king or to start growing in their kingship, that it is it's so far beyond simply being acknowledged by another person as being a king. If you need that acknowledgement from somebody else, we got to start from scratch. The servant part is first. The servant part is constant. Even when you put the throne in the robe, when you put the crown and the robe on and you sit on the throne, the heart behind everything that's spoken should be for the good of the people, not for the good of the one.
Subscribe so you don't miss next week's video.
That told me a long time ago, when you are definitively in a leadership position and you are out of place, you will be potentially put in a position to compromise everything that you are supposed to be.
Come on,
Number
sir.
one.